Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your space for black news, black views, and as always, black opinions. Today's Monday, February 28th. I'm Seth Lemon.
I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, as fighting continues, Russia is ramping up its war efforts against Ukraine. The growing global concerns as Vladimir Putin puts nuclear arms on high alert. Meanwhile, a decade after Trayvon Martin's death, new research reveals a surge in homicides could be directly linked to stand your ground laws. Then, one state's Republican governor is calling on legislators to act, urging them to beef up security at HBCUs.
Plus, the Tinder swindler continues to cash out. How the Netflix documentary is using his newfound celebrity to make thousands. And Rick Ross reminds us why he is the boss, while Ricky Rose traded his bars for branches and saved himself some money in the process. It's Money Making Monday, man. We have all that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
This now marks the second week of fighting that continues in Ukraine. Monday, today, began with peace talks, but ended with the Russian bombardment of Kyiv. 31 people at least were killed in another major city in Ukraine. Ukrainian and Russian officials, they met in Belarus today. It was the first face-to-face meeting between officials of the two countries. Meanwhile, the U.S. and European allies, they are doling out those sanctions, which they say are going to have a devastating impact on Russia's economy. President Biden's new sanctions immobilized the Russian central bank and all of its assets that are held here in the U.S. The ruble, well, that crashed this morning, shutting down, the ruble crashed this morning, shutting down the Russian stock market. It forced people to rush to banks in the country to get cash out of ATMs. And it comes as the Ukrainian military holds off the Russian assault. Russian President Vladimir Putin, he's also got his nuclear forces on high alert, and that is raising concerns around the globe. U.S. military officials say any miscalculation by the Russian president could make things much more dangerous. We are seeing this escalate very quickly to the point now where we saw them take Chernobyl in Ukraine, which is the site of the worst nuclear meltdown in history. And now to see President Putin putting his nuclear arms on high alert as if he feels there might be a need to use them, it's very concerning.
You know, Putin and Hitler, they're being trended together right now, which is really, really scary. That's online on Twitter, on Instagram, all over the social media. And so President Biden, he did put out a statement saying that he's going to continue support. We're going to continue support for Ukrainian people and affirm our readiness to keep imposing severe costs on Russia if they do not de-escalate. And some of those costs that we're seeing, FedEx and UPS, they halted inbound shipments to Russia and Ukraine. Another one, the BP and Shell, they're also threatening to quit Russia as well. We've seen bars in the U.S. and in Canada are pulling Russian vodkas off of the shelves. And so a lot of companies are joining in this fight right now, and they're choosing sides.
They really are. And when you think about Putin, you also can think about Donald Trump, because within the last week, let's talk about Trump, how Trump versus the Republican Party, his numbers are going low, right? They're going down. Let's talk about Putin's situation. Now, the world, thanks to social media, is showing their support for Ukraine. And to me, it takes away some of the power that Putin really thought he had, or maybe like just belittling him just a little bit. And I'm okay with that, because he thought this was going to be an easy task in my eyes. And now he's seeing not only is Ukraine putting up an amazing fight, but the rest of the world is supporting Ukraine as well.
Meanwhile, thousands of African immigrants in Ukraine are complaining of racist treatment as they struggle to get out of the country. Video on Twitter shows Ukrainian officials blocking African immigrants from boarding trains to nearby Poland. Many are documenting their experience on social media using the hashtag Africans and Ukraine. In one video, a group of African students are at the Ukraine-Poland border. They have guns drawn on them as they try to cross. There are an estimated 16,000 African students who are currently studying in Ukraine, mostly in major cities like Kyiv that are under a siege by Russian troops. The Africans, like hundreds of thousands of other Ukrainians, are flooding roads and train stations trying to get out of the country. African immigrants go to Eastern Europe because it's cheaper to study there than in Europe or in the United States. This was a huge story. Our producer, actually, Mimi, was talking about this on her social media, and I was like, we have to talk about this. There were clubhouses about this. I mean, there were videos, chat rooms. Everybody was talking about this over the weekend, and someone put on Twitter, I thought it was a pretty strong statement, that it says, a bomb doesn't check your nationality. And so they're saying that everybody needs help right now. But when we think about our people not being able to get out of something technically we don't feel like we're inside of, that is troubling.
Yeah, it really is. And you think about it, you have students over there that's giving money to that economy, obviously, right? And as we stand up for Ukraine, this is just hard to watch because even in the midst of all of this, Black people are still being belittled, being mistreated, not given the opportunity to get out, and just the way they were turning guns on them. It's a hard watch to think that it's 2022, but yet I'm still not surprised with things going on, not only in our backyard, but obviously across the world.
It's just sad that being Black, no matter where you are and where your location is, it still has implications. And to watch those videos, they were heartbreaking to see. The Africans and Nigerians, I think specifically, that were being prevented from getting on buses and trains to get to the Polish border. It's really just sad, and it's tough because on the one hand, you feel for the Ukrainians and what they're going through, but when you see behavior like this, as a Black person, it definitely is a sore spot.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen video of children as young as 2 months old. Young Black women that are young as 2 months old trying to get across, and that is really just hard to watch. And so rapper Young Thug, he also is offering assistance to Africans trying to leave Ukraine. And so hopefully that money does make it to those in need right now.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, just seeing the situation is so hard to believe that in a moment like this, you're going to pick and choose who has the right to get away, to hopefully save their own lives. Just not a good call. All right, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is defending her decision to speak at a white supremacist rally. Greene claims to not know anything about Nick Fuentes, the organizer of the American First Political Action Conference. The Congresswoman spoke to the group Friday. Fuentes has questioned the truth of the Holocaust and praised Jim Crow-era segregation. Meanwhile, Mitt Romney is calling Greene and fellow Congressman Paul Gosar morons. Gosar also spoke to the conference. Romney says the duo reminds him of a line from the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Romney quoted the line saying, "Morons. I have morons on my team." Romney said there is no space in either political party for white nationalism.
Well, Bill Barr says Donald Trump does not, quote, have the temperament or persuasive powers of a leader. The statement, that's an excerpt from the former Attorney General's upcoming book, One Damn Thing After Another. That's the title. Parts of the book were released by the Washington Post Sunday. In the book, Barr says the idea of Trump running for president again is, quote, dismaying. Barr, who said there was no mass election fraud during the 2020 campaign, says that Trump instigated the insurrection at the Capitol. The book is expected to be released March 8th.
It's been 10 years and 2 days since the death of Trayvon Martin at the hands of George Zimmerman. Zimmerman was found not guilty of shooting Martin to death. His lawyers successfully used Florida's Stand Your Ground doctrine to defend Zimmerman. That law does not require a person with a gun to retreat before shooting, as most laws have done in the past. A new study links an uptick in gun homicides to the laws. The University of Oxford says 700 additional killings a year in the U.S. can be attributed to Stand Your Ground laws. Authors of the report also say the increase in gun sales at the start of the pandemic has also contributed to the increase in homicides. There have also been an increase in states passing Stand Your Ground laws. 30 states have some form of that law in place. One part I just want to zone in. I don't think that it's fair to use the uptick in gun sales as a reason for anything. Black people were so many black people, and I forgot the exact ratio. So many black people are first-time gun owners as a result of the beginning of the pandemic, and so I don't want that to be misused. Against us because we are first-time gun owners and afraid for our lives at the beginning of the pandemic when we saw what happened with George Floyd.
It just doesn't make sense that Stand Your Ground kind of grew after these incidents. Trayvon Martin, hard to believe it's been 10 years since this young man was gunned down senselessly. But the idea that someone is defending their property or person on a public street that is nowhere near their home, Stand Your Ground should just be for your private property, and that's where I think we've gotten off course with that.
I agree. It doesn't give you the right to follow someone, to possibly threaten them. And then if you do kill someone, then how are they going to defend themselves? If there's no evidence or proof, it's pretty much what you're saying is what actually happened on that day. And most of the time, it's just not true. We know there's an increase in the numbers as far as crimes in the southern states since this legislation has passed. We're talking Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Missouri, ranging from 16% up to 33%. So yes, it's going up. How do we resolve this? It's not okay just to put guns in anyone's hands because things like this can happen. We saw what happened to Trayvon Martin.
Like you said, 10 years. It's hard to believe because we saw that happen and we still see that happen. And so just again, prayers to that family who has to relive this over and over and over again with no real justice.
Agreed. The first jury trial in the attack of the U.S. Capitol is underway. Jury selection started today in the trial of Guy Wesley Reffitt. Now, Reffitt is being charged with obstructing the work of Congress on January the 6th. Prosecutors say Reffitt has ties to a Texas militia. His children are scheduled to testify against him. In a previous court hearing, Reffitt's teen daughter reportedly said her father threatened to shoot her and her brother if they went to the FBI on him. More than 200 of the other Capitol riot cases haven't gone to trial because the defendants have pled guilty. The case will be the first of several jury trials that will feature evidence about the involvement of white extremist groups in the attack.
A Missouri judge is allowing a former cop convicted in the shooting death of a black man to remain free on bail while his appeal is pending. The unprecedented decision by Judge Dale Youngs, it's angered the victim and police reform activists. Eric DeValconaire was convicted of second-degree involuntary manslaughter and armed criminal action. That was in the 2019 shooting of Cameron Lamb. The former detective claims he was acting in self-defense and saw Lamb reaching for a gun when he shot and killed the 26-year-old. Prosecutors say that he acted recklessly by going onto Lamb's property without a warrant and firing within seconds. Cops say they were looking for a suspect who was chasing another person in a car. You're from St. Louis. I'll let you take this one.
Well, you think about it. I don't know if you were in St. Louis during the time when Mike Brown got shot, right? And we already know what happened to that officer. We all saw the video. We saw the hit. He was shot in the back. It was obvious. But if you think about the state of Missouri, and especially in St. Louis, you wonder why the relationship between police officers and the people of that community is so separate. I mean, we're talking 45% of St. Louis is black people. So it's a very high. But we don't have that same percentage when it comes to police officers. So we have the wrong cops. Probably in the wrong communities, if you ask me. This has been an ongoing problem across the country. How do we stop this? How do you expect us to show respect and have love for police officers? Not all of them are bad, but when they could still walk away or be acquitted and keep their jobs and their lives.
You know, Romeo, absolutely. They can walk away and also get to use "I feared for my life." I'm honestly kind of sick of hearing that you feared for your life. You signed up to be a police officer. Guess what? You're going to have some fear. There's going to be some fear that you're going to see. You're signing up for that. And so I'm just tired of hearing that white police officers, after you kill a black person, you feared for your life. And you can use that as an example to get off free.
Imagine if other first responders tried that. A firefighter, I feared for my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the fire, that's what you signed up for.
Yeah, it's part of the job, and you have to take on that responsibility and make the right choices.
Absolutely. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin says he wants to beef up security at the state's historically black colleges and universities. Youngkin says he will ask the Commonwealth's General Assembly for emergency funding to enhance security at the schools. After this, the rash of bomb threats against Norfolk State and Hampton University. Since early January, HBCUs around the nation have received bomb threats. So far, no one has been arrested, but the FBI says tech-savvy minors have been calling them in.
A man in Milwaukee is in custody after opening fire on cops in a police station on Friday. Police said the 23-year-old walked into the precinct and began firing. None of the cops were hit, but the shooter was injured after police fired back at him. Investigators say officers chased the man and were able to catch up to him. Now, so far, there's no motive for the shooting, but a man in custody died at the station last week, and that death is under investigation.
The conservative obsession with critical race theory continues. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, he wants to end tenure for any public university professor who teaches the concept. Now, Patrick's pledge to end the teaching of CRT, it came in a response to a non-binding resolution by the University of Texas Faculty Council. Instructors, they want to protect their freedom to teach about critical race theory and other historical concepts. Governor Greg Abbott, he says Patrick's proposal still needs to be studied.
A Missouri school board is reversing a decision it made to remove the bluest eye from school shelves. The decision came just 2 days after students filed a lawsuit against the book being banned. The Bluest Eye, written by Nobel laureate Toni Morrison, is the story of an abused black girl who is fixated on white standards of beauty and wants blue eyes. Wentzville County board members who voted to ban the book in January, they say it was inappropriate for students to read. But after a review, a committee looked at the book a second time, and it has decided to put the book back on school shelves.
A nonprofit group is suing on behalf of conservative students at the University of Houston so they can use racial slurs on campus without getting in trouble. The group Speech First says the university's anti-harassment policy stifles free speech, according to the lawsuit. The students want to engage in speech that is considered by the policy to be intimidating and denigrating to a protected class of people. The protected class applies to racial, religious, and sexual minorities. The lawsuit says university policy violates the students' First and 14th Amendment rights, but university officials say the lawsuit misconstrues the policy. A spokesperson says the policy clearly points out that actionable harassment must be unlawfully severe, pervasive, or persistent treatment of an individual. First of all, I went to University of Houston, so when I read this story, I was like, are you kidding me? And of course, they didn't name these students. They're called student A, B, and C. I mean, why don't they put their names out there? But just to give you an example, student A, believes affirmative action is racist and marriage can only be between a man and a woman. Student B said it doesn't want to use pronouns and play along with the fiction that people can decide whether they are male, female, or neither. And student C believes Black Lives Matter is an activist group that harms race relations. How do you guys feel about this? I'm kind of like, are you kidding me?
You know, the N-word is, well, I don't understand the fascination behind. I don't understand the fascination behind it. So a true story is when I was in Chicago, I didn't have to worry about the N-word with non-black people. But it wasn't until I moved to California I had to. There were other races that used the N-word, and so I struggled with that when I moved here first to California. And so, but I don't understand what the fascination with saying the word. What is the fascination with it?
Everybody wants to be it till it's time to be it.
Blank, blank, blank.